Good morning, everyone. This is your state representative, Doug Funderburk, coming to you from the Capitol building in Jefferson City. Well, we're wrapping up yet another busy week with only 2 left to go in this session, but it appears as though this afternoon we will have completed the state's budget and have it prepared to go to the governor for his signature. Some of the highlights of the budget that we've had to deal with this year, and as I'm sure you all are well aware, has had to sustain deep and severe cuts because of our failing economy. We have been able to, through this budget though, to take care of education priorities. We have been able to keep full funding in the classroom in the K through 12 education priorities, although we have had to see some rather deep cuts in the Parents as Teachers program, and it looks like there's going to be some further impact in the Career Ladder program in relations to the education priorities that we laid out earlier in the session. Again, the money that we are appropriating and the money that's in this budget, should the governor sign it, does not reduce funding going to the classroom. So the educational priorities in your schools are being funded. The teachers' salaries are still being funded, and we're going to hopefully get through this crisis in our budget over the next year or so, and then work on restoring funding to these other critical and important programs that add to and enhance the education process in the state of Missouri. We've also been able to keep in the budget important job creating tax credits. There's been a lot of debate over the last couple of weeks about which tax credits we should keep, which tax credits we should consider maybe eliminating. And what became apparent over those 2 weeks of debate is that we need to do a thorough review and analysis of every tax credit and determine its effectiveness, and before we make any changes or any cuts to those programs, because after all, the intent of those tax credits is to create new jobs. But before we make any changes to those programs, that we know that we're taking the least effective ones or the non-effective ones out of the mix, but making sure that we keep in place the ones that are important and doing and successful in creating new jobs. Then this week I've received a lot of your surveys back, and I'm glad to hear and glad to see those coming in, and I hope the others of you who still have them will get them filled out and get them sent back to me. Those surveys are important for me to know how you feel about how specific questions anyway on how we should be making decisions here in Jefferson City about statutes and situations that affect you and your home. One of the questions that was in my survey that has had an overwhelming response of the surveys I've received back so far, we're still tabulating all the data, is that the overwhelming majority of you support my efforts to limit the growth of government, and in areas where we can find that are inefficiencies or there are some unnecessary offices or functions within government, maybe to eliminate those and then shift those dollars and those priorities over to areas of government that are a little bit more needed and a little bit more impacting. Another one of the questions that the response so far is overwhelming is that it seems the overwhelming majority of you in the district support my effort, as well as the efforts of many of my colleagues, to get on the ballot, and hopefully on the ballot this November, an opportunity for the voters to decide on whether or not to have a constitutional amendment that would require that future voters would have to have a photo ID to make sure that we can identify who you are and that you are a valid voter in a precinct before you can vote. And in that provision would be an ability to provide free non-drivers photo IDs for anyone who does not currently have or hold a driver's license but needs an ID to make sure that they're able to vote. There's many more surveys I hope to see come in, and once we have that sufficient number, we're going to tabulate all that data, and I'm going to send all of you a final report on the results of those surveys, and I look forward to seeing you back in the district and talking to you more about those questions and any others that you may have as we finish up these last 2 weeks and near the end of session. I'll be spending a lot more time at home and in the district, and I want to hear from you. So until then, this is your state representative, Doug Funderburk, coming to you from your Capitol building in Jefferson City, wishing you a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next week.